4 terrifying and surreal stories from the mind of Shintaro Kago. In 4 Labyrinth, 4 identical girls struggle to escape from a horrific labyrinth while solving mysteries and fleeing from a killer. In Cursed Room, a young girl faces the torments of mysterious paranormal phenomenon in her apartment. Portrait of Family is a dark story about the unexplained disappearances of people in a neighborhood. Finally, Blood Harvest explores mysterious deaths that occurred in used cars. Welcome to the world of Brain Damage by Kago Shintaro. This is a anthology series with 4 different stories, 4 very weird, crazy stories. I will be going over the 4th one. All the other ones are really good. I don't think that I'm skipping them because they're not good or anything like that. I just think that in terms of the video, I can get the most out of Blood Harvest. The other ones are really good. 4th Labyrinth is super violent and has a crazy unique twist. Cursed Room is one of those where you think it's going in one direction, and then all of a sudden it flips and it goes into a completely different direction, and then it twists itself again right at the very end. And Portrait of Family is not necessarily a horror so much as it is just a weird comedy. There are like horror aspects, but that one is just really weird and has things dealing with incest and dementia and people going missing, and yeah, just wild. But we're going to be focusing on Blood Harvest. So in Blood Harvest, we have our main character. Her name is Hisano, and Hisano is taking her friend Mayu to the beach so that they can relax. And Mayu is kind of just complaining about being stuck in traffic and about this car that Hisano has. And it turns out that this is a used car and is like one of the only cars that she was able to get her hands on. So they have fun at the beach, and they end up seeing this place that has like a very long queue. And so they start lining up when this girl shows up and says, excuse me, I was in the queue before you. I just moved aside because the sun was getting too much for me. And Mayu calls her out and says that she's lying, and the girl ends up touching Mayu's hand, and then as soon as she touches her hand, she freaks out and runs away. And then we cut back to Hisano and Mayu in their car, driving. They're stuck in traffic, and it seems that Hisano fell asleep, even though she's the one driving. And she wakes up and she looks over, and Mayu is missing from the passenger seat. And she looks around, and every car around her except for hers is completely destroyed. It looks like there's been like a terrible crash, but Hisano's car is the only one that's like in pristine condition. And then she starts yelling for Mayu, and she wakes up, and it turns out that that was a dream. And so she looks over at the passenger seat and she sees Mayu, and Mayu is completely just obliterated. Like she's just smashed up, body's contorted. She's obviously dead and just, oh, it's terrible. And of course, Hisano passes out and ends up in the hospital. And when she wakes up, there's this guy standing over her. His name is Okamaru, and he's from the police traffic department. And he basically just wants to go over some questions. And Hisano at this point is pissed off because she's like, I've answered the same questions thousands of times. My story is not going to change. There's nothing new I can tell you. And he says, I understand that I'm kind of becoming a pain in the butt, but none of this makes any sense. You say you were stuck in traffic on your way back from the beach. You were tired and you fell asleep at one point. And then when you wake up, you discover that your friend Mayu had turned into an amorphous, bloody corpse. That's your statement. But your friend's corpse looks like she has been smashed and crushed from head to toe. It's impossible that she was sitting next to you and you never noticed that happening. There's 2 possibilities. The first is that you killed her inside the car, and that the second is that you killed your friend somewhere else and then put her body into the car later on. But the first possibility doesn't really make sense because there was no tools found in the car, and there was no blood also found in the car. As for you killing Mayu, well, there was no blood found on you, but just the fact that you would murder her somewhere else and then put her in the car, like that doesn't make much sense. Like, why would someone do that? So now let's go back to your first statement, that your friend turned into that disgusting corpse while you were sleeping. And then he drops some articles on her, and he basically explains that about a year ago, there was this delivery guy, and he was stuck making one of his rounds because there was a car in front of him. And no matter how many times he honked, the car wouldn't move. So he went over to go see what was going on, and he found that the owner of the car and the owner's family were all burnt to a crisp inside. The problem is that even though the bodies were completely charred, there was no burn marks anywhere else. The car was completely fine. The only thing that was burned was the bodies. Either the 4 of them got burned and then made their way into the car and then died, or someone carried their burnt corpse into the car. That doesn't make any sense either way. Like, what's going on here? And then he brings up that there's been more incidents like this. Last year, there were the bodies of a couple that were found inside a vehicle parked in the parking lot of a supermarket. And the bodies looked like they had been crushed by an enormous force. But again, the car was completely fine. In November, the bodies of a family of 3 were found inside a car parked on the streets in a neighborhood area. And the bodies all suffered severe fractures and broken bones and ruptured organs. In January, there were 2 elderly people that appeared to have drowned. And when they were found in their car, like their lungs were filled with salt water, but there was not a single drop of water found inside or outside of the car. So there's been a bunch of bodies found in cars, just mangled, just in all these weird situations. And it's been an occurrence that's been happening lately. Like there have been 10 such cases in just the last year. All the cases just defy explanation. There's got to be something going on here. And the only reason I'm telling you this is because you're the only survivor involved in any of these cases. And then eventually we see like a couple days pass and Hisano's mom comes to pick her up. And as they're about to leave, Akamura shows up again and wants to just question them some more. And so he's like, I believe your daughter will be a great help in solving my mystery case. And the mom is like super excited about this. Like she's totally invested in this. And so he explains the investigation. He explains that there's a bunch of people in my precinct that are going over different cases. However, none of them believe any of the cases have anything to do with each other. I'm the only one that believes all the cases are related in some way. And so I've been trying to tackle this pretty much in my free time. So he basically explains that one thing he's noticed is that the victims had all purchased their car a month prior. So these are all different cars that people have been found dead in, but the one similarity that they all have is that all of them were purchased a month before. So someone like a family member will go, they'll buy a car, and then a month later they'll wind up dead in the car. And so they also realize that all the cars are secondhand. What I mean by that is that these are not brand new cars, these are used cars. And so he has a detailed record of all the car's characteristics and the previous owners. And it turns out that they do not have the same owner. They're not even bought by the same retail. They all are from different places. And so he's kind of stuck back at square one. He's just like, I can't figure this out. People are winding up dead inside their car. They're all used cars, and they all wind up dead a month after they purchase their car. But that's the only thing that I can see that's similar with each other. Is there anything else you can tell me? And Hisano's like, no. And so they go to the parking lot where the dad is going to pick her up. And they discovered that the dad is dead inside his car. And he is just completely messed up, as you can see in this panel. It's horrifying. And once again, Hisano has like this weird nightmare where she sees cars falling from the sky and a bunch of dead people inside. And she's just stuck on this highway with a bunch of cars filled with dead bodies. And the cars are just like falling off of the highway and down into a city below. She wakes up and she's at her father's funeral. Okamura shows up again and Hisano's like, I'll help you. We'll try to figure this out because now my dad is like the latest victim. I have to get involved and figure out what's been going on. And it turns out that the car that the dad was in when he died was also a used car. And then that's when he starts making a discovery. And the discovery is that all the cars were previously involved in accidents. So one car was just completely pummeled and just beaten and just wrecked. But then all of a sudden, the next day, the owner shows up and sells the car. And the retailer is like, yeah, the car, when it came in, it looked brand new. Like there was not a scratch on it. And he explains that there was something very weird about the client. For a moment, as soon as he signed the paperwork to sell the car to us, he had this weird look in his eyes. And then it seemed like he just disappeared. Like I turned around for a second, and then when I looked back, he was gone. Okamura is like, that's weird because the date you said the guy sold you the car was May 2nd. However, the guy who sold you the car, him and his whole family died on April 20th. So how could he have sold you the car when he died previously? And the way that he died was in a fire. And that's when he explains what's going on. Basically, what happens is the car owner buys the car. Him and his family get into a wreck where the car ends up lighting on fire and they all burn to death. And the car is completely destroyed. But then like a week or so later, the car is completely brand new. It's completely pristine. And the man who should be dead is alive and he sells the car. And then the car gets purchased by someone else. And then a month after the car gets purchased, that person dies of a fire. So the people who were drowned in the car, it turns out that the previous owner had run the car into the water and drowned. And then the car got fished out. It was completely fine, got sold to someone else, and then that person ends up drowning in the car. So people are basically dying from different ways in their car. The car gets fixed up, it gets sold to someone else, and then that person ends up dying in the same way, only without having to actually go through the trouble of, so like for example, if a car killed the original owner by exploding, then the second owner will die from an explosion, but the car won't actually explode. It's just the aftermath of them would be as if they exploded. Sano's like, I think I know where it's coming from. We got to stop it. And she ends up finding the lady that her and Mayu met earlier, the one that had touched Mayu's hand and freaked out. And so she grabs the lady's hand and pulls her away and starts questioning her like, hey, all these cars here, they're all thirsty for blood. If we don't act, there's going to be even more victims. There's something that you know. Like there's got to be a way that we can identify the dangerous cars, but apparently they don't have any distinguishing features. However, you ran away as soon as you saw me. You ran away as soon as you touched Mayu's hand because you noticed something strange. What's going on? And the woman basically explains that she has the ability to see things that others can't. And because of that, she's always been treated as crazy and people avoid her. When she saw Hisano, she realized that there's something different about her. So she basically asked Hisano to give her her hand. So Hisano holds out her hand and the woman pulls out a box cutter, slices her finger so it draws blood, and then wipes it on a car door and nothing happens. And then she does it to multiple cars and nothing happens. And eventually she does it to one car and that car lights up on fire and it just gets completely wrecked. And she basically explains that you're different from the average person. These cars don't like your blood. That's why you survive. Let's say that these cars are basically like vampires. Crash cars have tasted fresh human blood and they come back from the other side for more. So yeah, basically these are vampire cars. They started off normal, but then when they got into wrecks and things like that and people died within them, they got a taste for that. They got a taste for that human blood. And so they kind of almost morphed into living cars. And now they will, like after a wreck, they will fix themselves, bring their previous owner back to life temporarily so that they can sell them to someone else and just repeat this process over and over again so that they can just keep killing humans and feasting on their blood. However, for some reason, they don't like Hisano's blood. So when Hisano like smears her blood on them, they get destroyed. They revert back to how they were during the crash. And so they realize, well, there's a bunch of cars here. There's no way that Hisano can wipe her blood on all of them without dying. But she thinks, okay, well, based off of my weights and based off of how much blood I can donate, I have like 4 liters of blood that we can use. And so they start draining her blood and start dripping it on a bunch of cars. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to like, we just got to find one car that's a vampire and just record it. And if we can record me putting the blood on it and then what happens afterwards, that'll be evidence that there's something wrong with these cars. And then we can get it to the news and we can get people to stop buying used cars. So it gets to a point where Hisano is just like completely drained. And so they start buying her a bunch of nutritional supplements. They force her to eat liver because liver helps, get the blood pumping. They eventually find a car that becomes vampiric. They drop Hisano's blood on it and it gets destroyed. And the news of the blood-sucking vampire cars spreads like wildfire. The public is now understandable about these cars, and they pass a law forbidding people from being able to buy secondhand cars. Like once a car is used up or it crashes or whatever, it gets scrapped. However, People are still distrustful of cars, and so they still, need to test the cars using Hisano's blood. The problem is that Hisano is the only one who they've ever been able to find that the vampire cars hate. Like her blood's the only blood that they hate. They haven't been able to find anyone else. And so we have a sad ending where Hisano basically becomes a blood factory for the good of the world. And that's the end of Blood Harvest, Chapter 4 of Brain Damage. Freaking weird and wild. But this isn't even the craziest story in here. I'll say the craziest is probably number 3. Number 3 is the wackiest. Number 2 has the most crazy twists. And I don't just mean like a final twist. I mean, it just completely shifts from one story to like another to another. It all makes sense, but it's just wild. And number 4 has like the craziest ending. This is just a very weird anthology, but I absolutely love it. It's just wild. And I highly recommend checking it out. So there you go. There's Brain Damage. I've only went over one story. There's 3 others that you can check out for yourself. I'll leave a link down in the description below where you can read it. And yeah, check it out whenever you have the time. It's crazy, it's wild, but it's very entertaining. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I still want to thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next one is more to your liking. With that said, thank you once again, and I hope you guys and gals have a good one. Later.